Imagine hearing jazz music. A few months ago, I was fortunate enough to have an evening out with one of our daughters in Richmond, Virginia. We ended up at a jazz club, the kind you don't easily forget. It was almost cinematic. The lights were low and warm. There was a soft hum when you walked in, not too loud, not too quiet, just alive. You could hear ice settle into the glasses and the soft clink of a stir. And there were interesting things everywhere. You walk in and there's textures and art, and there's little details that make you realize the space has been collected over time, not cobbled together quickly. You could hear laughter from one corner and the quiet hush that follows after someone says something of consequence from another. And all that to say that people were even more interesting than the space, of course. You could spot the regulars. They were comfortable. They didn't scan, they settled. They knew where to sit, knew who to nod at. And you could tell the first-timers too, those like my daughter and myself who tried to look comfortable as we walked in, also assessing the unwritten rules of the room. And then there were the musicians. And as I watched them intently, I realized I wasn't watching a performance, I was watching a jam session. One would throw out a phrase and a few notes, and another would join in. And then someone would step into lead, and the others would step back. And with acknowledgement, a nod, the others would join in. And then almost seamlessly, someone would pivot, and it would all begin again. And that's when it dawned on me. I'm watching humility and respect in action, in real life. The humility to contribute without taking over, and the respect to listen closely enough to know how and when to join in, and the willingness to build something together that no one person could do alone. But then it struck me. What I was really watching, what I was privy to, was their third place. A place where the music happens because the relationships are real. But just showing up for your third place isn't enough. It's not just about the place. It's about what you all bring to the place, or the music won't play. In preparation for this conversation, I put out a survey to a convenience sample. And I gathered what I think is some pretty interesting insight that I want to share a little bit with you now. 35 out of 100 of us don't have a third place. And here's why that matters. Back in 1989, a sociologist, Ray Oldenburg, coined the phrase, third place, to encapsulate that space between work and home. The place where we gather, we come, we communicate, and we connect. And he warned in not having access to these informal gathering places, we start to tug at the fabrics of our democracy because we don't have those spaces to bring our authentic selves, a space where we feel we belong. The thing is, just having a third place isn't enough. It's having the space where you can come and be a part of something bigger than yourself. So the good news is 65 out of 100 of us do have a third place. Overwhelmingly, what I heard was their third place gives them a sense of connection and belonging. And on the screen, you'll see the statistic that I'm going to reference later. 88% of people who have a third place feel connected. Now, mind you, they also feel a sense of calm in that space and having a bit of presence about them without having their phone in hand. They feel more connected to the people around them. So a third place offers measurable, and might I say consequential benefits. So why don't more people have one? It wasn't something like, I don't care about community. They were relatable, they were human. They were things like time. Who here has enough time? We're all pulled in a million directions. Uncertainty. Where does one even find this most elusive place? Third place. Energy. The exhaustion that comes at the end of an evening when all you want to do is crawl into your pajamas and click through Netflix. Cost. Please tell me I'm not the only one that sometimes feels like I've overstayed my welcome at a coffee house without having purchased that second cup of cappuccino. But then there's also that quiet tension of walking into a space without cues or prompts. So it's more than just having a space. It's knowing that you belong there. Back in 2018, I started to notice something that I couldn't unsee. I started to notice that we weren't connecting, especially across perspectives. Now, there was noise, loads of division everywhere, but real conversations weren't happening. At this point, I didn't yet know about the work that Braver Angels and Bridge USA were doing, the important connective work that they were doing. But I knew I was seeing something, and I knew I could do something, so I did. I invited a diverse group of people around my dining room table, and I asked them to come and have a conversation. Not to debate, not to win, not to proselytize, but to talk. We had two guardrails: speak with humility and listen with respect. One conversation turned into another, and the Great Reset was officially launched. The mission is to have conversations across perspectives where people can come and bring their lived experiences and the lens through which they look to the conversation. At present, we've had over 1,000 people having these conversations, not just across the United States, but across the globe. Places like Kenya and Rwanda, Colombia, and the UK. And we didn't keep it to ourselves, because now we have the tools, right, and the training. So we work with religious or educational or community organizations to train them so they can build up stronger and more resilient communities. Sounds great, right? But a year or so ago, I started to notice something else. People were stepping back. People were, remember those original stats that were on the screen? About people feeling disconnected and exhausted. People were exhausted. They'd reached their bandwidth. So I thought, how do we resolve this one? And so conscientiously curated conversations came into being. And what I did this time was I invited people yet again to my home. But this time I did something differently. I had people from the community come in and talk, who are already doing this great work, to share, here's what I'm doing. Here's why it matters. And here's how you can help. And in lowering that barrier of entry, it did something. It gave them the cues and the prompts and the entryway to participate yet again. Because when the entry point is clear and welcoming, people show up fully. So remember those stats that I shared earlier in the screen? Where 35 out of 100 of us don't have a third place. Remember the other statistic I told you to remember? 88% of people who do feel connected. If those 35 people showed up to a third place, 31 of those 35 would now feel connected. So, here's my challenge to all of you, if you choose to accept it, and I hope you do. Invite someone to join you in your third place. Or accept someone's welcome into theirs. Start here. Show up at your local library, rec center, Y, faith community, and show up without your phone in hand, ready to engage and have a conversation, maybe even with a stranger. Because when you do, the music will play.